Have you ever wondered why, just when things begin to go well in your life, something inside you seems to pull the rug out from under your feet? A new opportunity appears, a relationship blossoms, or a long-awaited dream finally feels within reach, yet somehow, almost mysteriously, you sabotage it. You cancel. You procrastinate. You pick a fight. You back away. It feels like fate working against you, but in truth, it is something far closer. It is the unseen shadow within. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." These patterns of self-sabotage are not random, not cruel tricks of the universe. They are the whispers of your repressed emotions, your hidden fears, and your denied desires. They live in the shadow parts of yourself you have pushed away, disowned, or buried beneath years of survival. And here is the paradox. The very parts you try to silence are the ones controlling you most powerfully. The more you ignore them, the louder they become. That's why the cycle repeats, again and again. But what if I told you that within this darkness lies the key to your freedom? That by turning toward the shadow instead of running from it, you can break free from self-sabotage and finally create the life you've always wanted? This journey is not about fixing what is wrong with you. It is about uncovering the hidden truth of who you are. It is about transforming the energy of repression into power, clarity, and integration. Tonight, we step into that journey together. From darkness to awareness. From self-sabotage to self-mastery. Are you ready to meet the part of yourself that has been shaping your destiny all along? What exactly is shadow work? And why is it the missing key in breaking free from self-sabotage? Carl Jung described the shadow as everything we reject or hide from ourselves, the thoughts, feelings, and impulses we label as unacceptable, shameful, or dangerous. From childhood, we learn which parts of us are allowed and which must be locked away. We bury anger to appear kind. We suppress vulnerability to seem strong. We hide ambition so we don't look arrogant. Piece by piece, we cut away fragments of our own being until only a partial self remains in the light. But those exiled pieces don't disappear. They live on in the shadow, influencing us from behind the curtain of consciousness. And this is where self-sabotage begins. Imagine trying to walk forward while dragging a heavy bag you refuse to look inside. No matter how fast you move, the weight slows you down. Eventually, the bag bursts open, spilling its contents at the worst possible moment. That bag is your shadow. Its hidden contents, your denied feelings, your forgotten wounds leak out in procrastination, conflict, fear of success, and broken patterns of love. Modern life amplifies this struggle. Social media tells us to show only the best angles. Work culture rewards constant productivity while dismissing rest. Families encourage us to be strong and move on instead of sitting with our truth. Everywhere, we are taught to polish the mask while ignoring the raw humanity underneath. And so the shadow grows stronger, hungrier, more determined to make itself known. Here's the irony. The shadow isn't your enemy. It isn't here to destroy you. It is here to wake you up. Every act of self-sabotage is a signal, a flare in the night sky, urging you to pay attention to the parts of yourself you've ignored. Shadow work, then, is the courageous process of turning inward, of opening that hidden bag, of reclaiming what you once cast aside. It is not easy. It requires honesty, humility, and patience. But it is also deeply rewarding, because with every piece you reclaim, you become more whole, more authentic, more powerful. Think of it this way. You are not a puzzle missing pieces. You are the puzzle itself, scattered, waiting to be reassembled. Shadow work is the act of putting yourself back together. In the chapters ahead, we will explore how the shadow shows up in your life, the signs that it's quietly running the show, and most importantly, how you can stop the cycle of self-sabotage by integrating your hidden self. So, let me ask you again. Are you ready not just to fight your self-sabotage, but to understand it, to listen to it, to transform it into your greatest teacher? Because the shadow you fear may be the ally you've been waiting for all along. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by mountains, there lived a man named Elias. On the surface, Elias appeared successful. He was respected, he provided for his family, and he smiled whenever others looked his way. But inside, he carried a secret burden. Every evening when the village slept, Elias would walk into the forest. Deep among the trees stood a cave, sealed by a heavy stone door. No one else dared to approach it, for whispers claimed a monster lived inside. But Elias knew the truth. The monster was his. Years ago, when he was still a child, Elias had placed parts of himself into that cave. His anger, his grief, his longing to be free. Each time he felt something too heavy to bear or too dangerous to reveal, he locked it away behind the stone. With every passing year, the cave grew fuller, the air inside grew thicker, and the creature, formed by all he had rejected, grew larger, hungrier, more restless. Elias told himself he was safe as long as he kept the door sealed. But the monster would not be silent forever. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, he heard its roar echo through the trees. Sometimes, without warning, it pushed against the stone, causing cracks in his daily life. Sudden anger, unexplainable fear, sabotaged opportunities. One night, after losing yet another chance at happiness, Elias collapsed before the cave. He wept. "Why do you torment me?" he cried into the darkness. And for the first time, he listened. From deep within, a voice answered not the growl of a beast, but the voice of a wounded child. "I am you," it whispered. "I am everything you would not allow yourself to feel. I am the anger you swallowed, the tears you refused to shed, the dreams you buried to survive. I am not here to destroy you. I am here to return to you." Elias trembled. He realized the monster had never been his enemy. It was the shadow, his forgotten self longing to be seen, accepted, and embraced. With trembling hands, he opened the stone door. What stepped out was not a beast, but a fragile, luminous figure, a part of himself he had lost long ago. In that moment, Elias understood. The only way forward was not to run from the cave, but to walk into it. Not to fight the shadow, but to welcome it. This story is a mirror for us all. The cave is our unconscious. The monster is our shadow, those emotions, wounds, and desires we've locked away. And the stone door is the wall we build with denial and fear. Self-sabotage happens when the shadow presses against that door, demanding to be acknowledged. The outburst, the hesitation, the broken pattern, these are not curses, they are messages. They say, "Look at me, listen to me, reclaim me." The lesson? The shadow you run from is the key to your wholeness. And just like Elias, the moment you choose to open the door to sit with your shadow instead of rejecting it, you begin to transform. So, I ask you, what have you locked inside your cave? Now that we've set the stage with Elias's story, let's turn inward and examine how the shadow might already be influencing your own life. Shadow work isn't just about abstract psychology. It is about recognizing the very real signs of self-sabotage that emerge in your everyday choices. Here are 3 powerful signs that your shadow is quietly running the show. Number 1, you procrastinate when it matters most. Have you ever noticed that when something is truly important, a big opportunity, a bold step toward your dreams, you suddenly don't feel ready? You tidy the house, binge watch a series, scroll endlessly, anything to avoid the task at hand. On the surface, procrastination looks like laziness. But in shadow work, procrastination is rarely about time management. It is about fear. Fear of failure, yes, but also fear of success. Because success might mean visibility. Success might mean being judged. Success might awaken the parts of you that were once shamed for standing out. Your shadow whispers, "Stay small, stay hidden. If you rise, you'll be hurt." And so, you sabotage yourself before anyone else can. Ask yourself, what am I protecting myself from by delaying? What old wound is being stirred by the possibility of growth? Number 2, you sabotage relationships without knowing why. Do you find yourself pushing away people who truly care? Or choosing partners who repeat the same painful patterns as if you were caught in an endless loop? This too is the shadow at work. The shadow holds our unhealed wounds from childhood, our fear of abandonment, our longing for unconditional love, our buried resentment. When these wounds remain unseen, they sneak into our relationships, coloring every interaction. That's why you might pick a fight right when intimacy deepens, or feel restless and pull away just as someone gets close. Your shadow whispers, Don't trust this. Love is dangerous. Leave before you're left. The result? Self-sabotage. In the very area you desire most connection. Reflection. What story about love or trust did you bury long ago? And how might it still be guiding your choices today? Number 3. You set goals, but never allow yourself to reach them. Have you ever noticed the pattern of setting big goals? This year, I'll change everything, only to abandon them halfway through? It feels exciting in the beginning, but then resistance takes over. You rationalize, you settle, you say, maybe this wasn't meant for me. But underneath, the shadow often carries a hidden belief. I don't deserve this. This belief can come from moments where your needs were dismissed or your dreams were mocked. To protect yourself from disappointment, the shadow convinces you not to even try or to quit just before the finish line. This is why people spend years circling the same ambitions, never breaking through. The block isn't outside, it's within. Ask yourself, what part of me feels unworthy of what I seek? Whose voice am I still carrying in my head, telling me I cannot have it? Here's the empowering truth. These patterns aren't proof of weakness, they are invitations. Each act of procrastination, each sabotaged relationship, each abandoned goal, they all point toward the same thing. A shadow longing to be seen. Self-sabotage is not the end of the story. It is the beginning, because the very moment you notice it happening is the moment you are given a choice. Will you keep running from the shadow, pretending it doesn't exist? Or will you turn, like Elias at the cave, and finally listen? Awareness is the first step. And awareness, as Jung taught, transforms everything. We've uncovered the first 3 signs of the shadow's influence: procrastination, sabotaged relationships, and abandoned goals. But the shadow has many disguises. To understand how deeply it shapes your life, let's explore 3 more signs that self-sabotage is not a flaw in you, but a message from within. Number 4. You overcommit and burn out. At first, saying yes to everything makes you look strong, reliable, even admirable. But underneath, what's really happening? The shadow often hides a fear of rejection, an old wound whispering, if you say no, you'll lose love. So, you take on too much, carry burdens that aren't yours, and ignore your own limits. Eventually, exhaustion catches up, and you collapse physically, emotionally, or spiritually. This collapse isn't random. It is self-sabotage born from the shadow's belief that your worth is tied to pleasing others. Reflection. Where in your life are you sacrificing authenticity for approval? What part of you is terrified that no equals abandonment? Number 5. You chase perfection instead of progress. Perfectionism looks noble. People admire your high standards. But perfectionism is often the shadow in disguise, carrying the buried shame of never being enough. You revise endlessly, hesitate to launch, and criticize yourself for the smallest flaw. On the outside, it seems like discipline. On the inside, it's self-sabotage because perfection is impossible. The shadow whispers, if it's not flawless, you don't deserve success. This endless pursuit keeps you stuck at the starting line. Projects unfinished, dreams postponed, self-worth chained to an unreachable ideal. Ask yourself, who taught me that love must be earned through perfection? What would happen if I allowed myself to be messy, human, and still worthy? Number 6. You numb yourself instead of facing truth. Perhaps the most subtle form of self-sabotage is avoidance. Instead of confronting your pain, you drown it through endless scrolling, overworking, overeating, or distractions that promise temporary relief. Avoidance isn't weakness, it is survival. Somewhere along the way, you learned that facing your feelings was unsafe. So the shadow built a shield, numbing. But shields block joy as well as pain. The cost of avoidance is aliveness itself. You may tell yourself, I'm fine, even as part of you grows emptier by the day. But listen closely. Your shadow isn't numbing to hurt you. It's protecting the wound it doesn't trust you to heal. The invitation here is gentle but profound. What truth are you avoiding? What emotion do you fear will overwhelm you if you finally allow it? Each of these signs, overcommitting, perfectionism, and numbing, is a form of self-sabotage. But seen through the lens of shadow work, they aren't failures. They're messages. Messages that say, I am carrying your old wounds. I am protecting your hidden fears. I am keeping you safe, even if it costs you freedom. And here lies the paradox of transformation. The very behaviors that hold you back are also the breadcrumbs leading you to the parts of yourself that need healing. Think about it. Your exhaustion points to your need for boundaries. Your perfectionism points to your need for self-compassion. Your avoidance points to your need for safety and honesty. Self-sabotage isn't the enemy, it's the doorway. Each time you recognize one of these patterns, you are already stepping closer to integration. You are already loosening the shadow's grip, so pause for a moment. Breathe. Which of these patterns feels most alive in you right now? Overcommitting? Perfectionism? Avoidance? Or perhaps all three? Remember, the goal isn't to eradicate these tendencies overnight. The goal is to meet them with awareness, compassion, and curiosity. To ask, as Jung encouraged, what is this trying to teach me? mysome6.org. Heveration is a passion to toss, because once you see the lesson, the sabotage begins to lose its power. We've explored 6 signs of how the shadow drives self-sabotage. But shadow work is not only about recognizing patterns, it is about learning to integrate. Integration means taking back what you once rejected, so it no longer controls you from the dark. Let's close the list with 3 practices that help you stop fighting yourself and start walking toward wholeness. Number 7. Witness without judgment. The first step in integration is awareness, but awareness without judgment. Too often, when we notice a shadow pattern, procrastination, perfectionism, avoidance, we immediately scold ourselves. Why am I like this? What's wrong with me? This reaction only pushes the shadow deeper. Instead, practice witnessing. The next time you notice sabotage, pause, take a breath. Say gently, I see you, I hear you. You don't need to fix it in that moment. Simply acknowledging the shadow brings light into the cave. Remember, compassion is the language the shadow understands best. Number 8. Dialogue with the shadow. Jung often used a technique called active imagination, a process of speaking with parts of the unconscious. You can use this to meet your shadow directly. When you feel resistance rising, close your eyes. Imagine the part of you that is sabotaging maybe a fearful child, a protective guard, or even a monster. Ask it, what are you protecting me from? What do you need from me? You may be surprised at the answers. Often the shadow doesn't want to ruin you. It wants safety, love, or recognition. By giving it a voice, you begin the process of integration. Number 9. Transform energy into action. The shadow carries enormous energy. Think of how much force it takes to keep pushing down anger, grief, or desire. That energy doesn't vanish, it leaks out as sabotage. But once acknowledged, it can be redirected. Instead of repressing anger, channel it into setting boundaries. Instead of numbing grief, express it through writing, music, or ritual. Instead of burying desire, let it guide you to authentic goals. Integration isn't about erasing the shadow, it's about transforming its raw energy into creative force. These 3 practices, witnessing, dialoguing, and transforming, are not quick fixes. They are lifelong companions. Each time you use them, you loosen the grip of sabotage and reclaim another piece of yourself. Remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is wholeness. And wholeness comes when you invite every part of yourself, even the ones you once feared, back to the table of your life. So, as we close this list, pause and reflect. Which practice speaks to you most today? Can you begin, even gently, to turn toward your shadow, not as an enemy, but as a guide? Because the path of shadow work is not about fighting the darkness. It is about learning to see the light hidden within it. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." These words strike at the very heart of shadow work. We are not transformed by pretending everything is radiant, by covering wounds with affirmations, or by chasing only positive vibes. Transformation comes when we dare to descend into the depths, when we choose to meet the shadow on its own ground. Why is this descent necessary? Because the shadow is not a mistake in your design. It is part of the wholeness you were born with. To exile it is to exile yourself. To ignore it is to split your soul. And no one can live fully while split in half. Think of it this way. The shadow is like the roots of a great tree. From above the ground, we see the branches stretching toward the sky, our achievements, our smiles, our shining identities. But what sustains that tree? The roots hidden in darkness. Without them, the tree collapses. In the same way, your shadow, though buried, unseen, feeds your growth. Your creativity, your passion, your empathy, even your strength, all draw from the same soil that holds your wounds. Yet we live in a culture obsessed with cutting away the roots. We are told to just be positive, to avoid negativity, to smile even when breaking inside. But Jung's insight was clear. To find the light, you must first face the darkness. The sun does not rise by denying the night it rises, because the night makes space for dawn. So, what does this mean for you, standing here with your patterns of self-sabotage? It means you are not broken. You are not failing. You are being invited to wholeness. Each act of sabotage is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that your shadow is alive, asking for integration. This is why shadow work is not simply therapy. It is philosophy, spirituality, and transformation woven together. It asks, will you continue to reject half of yourself? Or will you begin the lifelong dance of integration? And here is the paradox. Jung revealed, the shadow you fear most is often the treasure you need most. Your anger, once embraced, becomes courage. Your grief, once expressed, becomes compassion. Your desire, once honored, becomes vitality. The gold is always hidden in the dark. So pause for a moment and reflect. What if everything you've labeled as wrong with you is not wrong at all? What if it is simply unloved? What if the parts you hide are the very parts that can set you free? This is the deeper meaning of shadow work. Not to destroy the darkness, but to bring it into relationship with the light. To remember that you are not just fragments, you are the whole, containing both day and night. And in that wholeness lies freedom. We began this journey with a question. Why do we sabotage ourselves just when life begins to open? And we discovered that self-sabotage is not the enemy, it is the language of the shadow. The shadow carries our hidden wounds, our unspoken fears, our repressed desires. It shows itself through procrastination, broken relationships, abandoned goals, exhaustion, perfectionism, and avoidance. But beneath each of these patterns is not weakness, it is a call to awareness, a call to integration, a call to wholeness. Carl Jung taught that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. Tonight, we've seen what that means. Fate is not some cruel hand outside us, it is the shadow within, shaping our choices until we choose to face it. And here lies the breakthrough. When you stop running, when you turn toward the shadow with compassion, everything begins to change. You reclaim your energy. You transform fear into courage, grief into compassion, desire into vitality. You stop sabotaging yourself because you no longer need to. The very parts of you that once tripped you up become the roots of your strength. This is the path of shadow work, from darkness to awareness, from awareness to integration, from integration to wholeness. But remember, this is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong practice. Each day, the shadow may rise again, bringing with it another chance to listen, to witness, to reclaim. And each time you do, you step closer to living as your full self. So as we close, let me leave you with this. The shadow you fear is not here to ruin you. It is here to return you to yourself. And when you welcome it, you stop fighting fate and begin shaping destiny. If this message spoke to you, I invite you to continue this journey with me. Share in the comments. Which shadow pattern do you recognize most in your own life? And what is one small step you can take to embrace it rather than run from it? If you found this helpful, subscribe to this channel, join our growing community, and let's walk this path together, learning to meet our shadows not with fear, but with courage, compassion, and curiosity. Because the truth is simple. You are not broken. You are becoming whole, and wholeness is the freedom you've been seeking all along.